This slide is one of the most important slides in the entire video. If you understand this slide properly, you will understand almost the whole theory of Alan Tate. Everything we have studied so far has been preparation for this moment. Until now, we have learned, poetry is different from propaganda. Poetry contains multiple meanings. Poetry is a self-contained structure. Poetry possesses unity. Now Alan Tate explains how that unity is created. Look carefully at the slide. You see, extension intention equals tension. This is not merely a clever word game. This is the foundation of Tate's literary theory. In fact, Alan Tate deliberately created the word tension from these two logical terms. The note at the bottom explains this. Tate literally removed the prefixes from extension, intention, leaving the common part, tension. This visual trick represents a deep philosophical idea. Tate is saying, a great poem contains both extension and intention simultaneously. When these two work together, we get tension. First question, what is extension? Let us start with the easier term. Extension refers to the outward meaning of a word, or the range of things a word points to. Think of extension as the external reference. Example 1. Consider the word tree. What does the word refer to? Mango tree, apple tree, coconut tree, banyan tree, neem tree. All these actual trees belong to the extension of the word tree. Extension is concerned with what objects does this word include? Example 2. Suppose I say bird. The extension includes eagle, sparrow, parrot, crow, pigeon. These are all members of the category. Simple definition. Extension means the outward reference of language. The objects, persons, events, or things that words point toward. Now what is intention? This term is more difficult. But once understood, it becomes very easy. Intention refers to the inner meaning associated with a word, or the qualities, emotions, and ideas carried by the word. Example. Again, take the word home. Its extension is simple. A home is a house or dwelling. But what happens when you hear the word home? You may think about family, love, safety, childhood, comfort, belonging. These emotional and conceptual associations form the intention. Another example. Consider the word rose. Extension, a flower. Intention, beauty, love, romance, delicacy, passion. Notice the difference. Extension gives us the object. Intention gives us the significance. Easy memory formula. Extension asks, what is it? Intention asks, what does it mean? Why does Tate use these terms? Because poetry contains both dimensions. Ordinary language often focuses on extension. Poetry combines extension and intention. Example. Imagine the sentence, the sunset. Scientifically, the sun appears to move below the horizon. This is extension, but in poetry, sunset may suggest death, aging, endings, melancholy, completion. These symbolic meanings belong to intention. Ordinary language versus poetic language. Consider this statement. The train arrives at 6 p.m. This sentence is mostly extension. Its purpose is factual communication. There is little emotional or symbolic meaning. Now consider, the last light of day disappeared behind the hills. Here we have extension, the sun is setting. Intention, end of life, loneliness, mystery, change, reflection. This richness creates poetry. Why is extension alone not enough? Imagine a poem containing only facts. For example, the temperature is 35 degrees. The road is 200 meters long. The building is 20 feet high. These statements communicate information, but they do not create poetic experience. Facts alone cannot produce great poetry. Why is intention alone not enough? Now imagine the opposite. Suppose a poet writes beauty, love, truth, soul, eternity, without concrete images or references. The poem becomes vague. Readers cannot visualize anything. Meaning becomes cloudy. Tate's great insight. Tate realized something important. Poetry needs concrete reference. and symbolic significance. At the same time, not one or the other. Both. The birth of tension. Now we reach the most important idea. When extension and intention interact, when factual meaning and symbolic meaning work together, when external reference and internal significance unite, we get tension. This tension creates poetic power. Example from Shakespeare. Consider, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Extension. Summer is a season. Intention. Beauty, warmth, vitality, youth, happiness. The line works because both meanings operate simultaneously. The literal and symbolic levels interact. This interaction is tension. Example from Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. Extension. Actual woods. Intention. Mystery, death, escape, unconscious desires, spiritual reflection. The line becomes powerful because it contains both levels. A scientific analogy. Think about electricity. Electricity requires positive charge and negative charge. Without both, the circuit cannot function. Similarly, poetry requires extension and intention. Without both, poetic energy disappears. A human analogy. Think about a human being. A person has body and mind. Body alone is incomplete. Mind alone is incomplete. Together they create a complete human being. Similarly, extension equals body of poetry. Intention equals soul of poetry. Tension equals living poem. Why this idea was revolutionary? Before Tate, critics often emphasized one side. Some focused on facts, history, reference. Others focused on emotion, imagination, subjectivity. Tate argued that great poetry requires both. This balanced approach became a major contribution to new criticism. The hidden meaning of the slide design. Notice that the prefixes are crossed out. Only the shared element remains. Tension. The slide visually teaches Tate's theory. The common core of extension and intention is tension. This is not accidental. It is a symbolic representation of poetic unity. Alan Tate derives tension from extension. Intention. Extension means denotation, reference, external meaning, literal meaning. Intention means connotation, association, internal meaning, emotional significance. Tension means the total meaning produced by the interaction of extension and intention. According to Alan Tate, tension is the complete meaning of a poem produced through the interaction of its extension, literal meaning, and intention, suggestive meaning. Remember, extension equals what you see. Intention equals what you feel. Tension equals what the poem becomes. Or, fact plus feeling equals poetry. Extension plus intention equals tension. This equation is the foundation of Alan Tate's entire critical framework and one of the most frequently examined concepts in new criticism. Before we go deeper into Alan Tate's theory, we need to understand where the word tension actually comes from. This may seem like a small detail, but it is one of the most important ideas in the entire theory. Many students make a serious mistake. When they hear the word tension, they immediately think of stress, anxiety, nervousness, conflict, emotional disturbance. But Alan Tate is not talking about psychological tension. He is not discussing a character feeling anxious. He is not discussing emotional stress. He is not discussing dramatic conflict. His meaning is completely different. The logical roots. Alan Tate borrowed his terminology from formal logic. Logic is the branch of philosophy that studies reasoning and meaning. In traditional logic, there are two important concepts: extension and intention. These terms already existed long before Alan Tate. He did not invent them. He borrowed them from logic and applied them to literature. What did Tate do? Tate noticed something interesting. Look at the words carefully. Extension, intention. Both words end with tension. So Tate performed a linguistic operation. He removed X from extension, in from intention. What remained? Tension. This is called prefix lopping. Lopping means cutting off. He literally cut away the prefixes and retained the common core. Visual memory. Extension right pointing arrow remove, X. Right pointing arrow tension. Intention right pointing arrow remove, in. Right pointing arrow tension. Both roads lead to the same destination, tension. This is not merely a wordplay. It represents a philosophical truth. Why is this important? Because Tate is saying, a great poem contains both extension and intention simultaneously. Not one, not the other, both. And when both are present together, we get tension. The meaning behind the word. The etymology itself teaches the theory. Extension represents external meaning, literal reference, denotation, what the words point to. Intention represents internal meaning, connotation, emotional significance, symbolic value. Most language emphasizes one side more than the other. Poetry combines both. Tate's core argument. This is the sentence you must remember for examinations. Tension is the complete coexistence of extensive meaning and intensive meaning within a poem. Notice the phrase, simultaneous coexistence. This is the key. The two meanings do not replace each other. They exist together, at the same moment, inside the same words. Example. Consider Shakespeare's line, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" Extension. Summer is a season. That is the literal reference. Intention. Summer suggests beauty, warmth, youth, happiness, vitality. These symbolic meanings operate simultaneously. The line contains both levels. The interaction of these levels creates tension. What tension is not? This is a very common examination trap. Many students answer, tension means conflict in a poem. That answer is incomplete. For Tate, tension is not primarily conflict. It is not anxiety. It is not emotional stress. It is not dramatic suspense. Instead, tension is the unified presence of all the poem's literal and symbolic meanings. Think of a musical chord. A chord contains several notes. Each note remains distinct, yet all the notes sound together. The beauty comes from their coexistence. Similarly, extension is one note. Intention is another note. Their simultaneous harmony creates tension. One-line examination definition. According to Tate, tension is the total meaning of a poem produced by the simultaneous coexistence of extension, literal meaning, and intention, suggestive meaning. Now we come to the first pole of Tate's theory, extension. Remember, Tate says, extension plus intention equals tension. So we must first understand extension clearly. The slide calls extension the anchor. Why an anchor? Think about a ship in the sea. An anchor keeps the ship connected to the ground beneath the water. Without it, the ship drifts away. Similarly, extension keeps poetry connected to reality. It prevents poetry from becoming vague or meaningless. Nature of extension. The slide says extension is logical, literal, analytical. This means extension deals with facts and direct meanings. It asks, what does this word literally mean? What object is being described? What is actually happening in the poem? For example, when Shakespeare writes, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" Extension first asks, what is a summer day? A warm, bright day in the summer season. That literal meaning is extension. Function of extension. The slide says, the abstract, denotative meaning of a word. The dictionary definition. The key word here is denotation. Denotation means dictionary meaning. For example, rose, extension, a flowering plant. River, extension, a flowing body of water. Moon, extension, Earth's natural satellite. These are literal definitions. No emotions, no symbolism, no hidden meanings, just the direct meaning. Poetic role of extension. Why is extension important in poetry? Because it provides structure. It gives poetry a solid foundation. Imagine a poem containing only vague emotions: love, eternity, beauty, infinity. Readers may become confused. But if the poet writes, A red rose bloomed in the garden. Now we have something concrete, something visible, something real. The rose becomes the foundation upon which deeper meanings can develop. Extension provides this foundation. Example: consider the line, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep." Extension asks, what are woods? Answer: a forest, a place filled with trees. That is the literal meaning. Only after understanding the literal meaning can we move to symbolic meanings. Imagine I write the word fire and ask 5 students what it means. They may answer, a source of heat, a chemical reaction, something that burns. These answers belong to extension. They focus on literal reality. Extension creates stability. Why is extension important? Because language requires stability. If words had no stable meaning, communication would collapse. Imagine if every student defined tree differently. Conversation would become impossible. Extension provides a common foundation. The poetic role of extension. Now we come to the most important row. The slide says, poetic role provides the rational structure and logical determinants of the imagery. This sentence contains the heart of Tate's argument. What does this mean? Poetry may seem emotional, but great poetry is not random emotion. Great poetry possesses structure. Extension provides that structure. It tells us what images are present, what objects are being described, what events are occurring, what relationships exist. Without extension, imagery would become chaotic. Why extension alone cannot create poetry? At this point, students often ask, if extension is so important, why not stop there? Because extension alone produces information, not poetry. Consider this statement: the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. The sentence communicates a fact, but it does not create a poetic experience. Why? Because only extension is operating. Intention is absent. Yet poetry cannot exist without extension. This is equally important. Suppose a poem contains only vague emotions: eternity, beauty, soul, infinity. Readers struggle to understand it. Why? Because there is no anchor, no concrete reality, no extension. The poem begins to float away from experience. Imagine constructing a house. First comes foundation, pillars, walls. Only later do we add decoration, paint, furniture. Extension is the foundation. Intention is the decoration and atmosphere. Both are necessary, but the foundation comes first. Why new critics loved extension? New critics wanted students to pay attention to the actual words on the page. Extension encourages close reading. It forces us to ask, what does the poem literally say? What images are present? What objects are described? This disciplined reading prevents careless interpretation. According to Tate, extension is the logical, literal, denotative meaning of words that provides the rational structure of a poem. Think, extension equals external meaning, or extension equals dictionary meaning, or extension equals anchor. Anchor keeps a ship stable. Extension keeps a poem connected to reality. That is why Tate calls extension the first pole of poetic meaning. Students, in the previous slide we studied extension, the anchor of poetry. Now we move to the second pole, intention. The slide calls intention the pulse. This is a beautiful metaphor. Think about a human body. A body may have bones, muscles, and organs, but without a pulse there is no life. Similarly, extension provides the structure of a poem, but intention provides its life, energy, emotion, and depth. If extension is the skeleton, intention is the heartbeat. Nature of intention. The slide says intention is emotional, figurative, implicit. Let us understand these one by one. Emotional. Intention carries feelings. Words often create emotions beyond their literal meaning. For example, the word home literally means a place where people live, but emotionally it may suggest love, family, security, childhood memories. These emotional associations belong to intention. Figurative. Intention operates through figures of speech, such as metaphor, symbol, imagery, irony. For example, the world is a stage. Literally, the world is not a stage. The statement creates figurative meaning. That figurative meaning belongs to intention. Implicit. Implicit means suggested rather than directly stated. Poetry often hints at meaning instead of openly explaining it. Readers must discover those deeper meanings. This hidden layer is intention. Function of intention. The slide says, the rich connotative meaning of a word. The associations it carries. The key word here is connotation. Connotation means the feelings, ideas, and associations connected to a word. Example: rose, extension, a flower, intention, love, beauty, romance, passion. Example: dove, extension, a bird, intention, peace, innocence, purity. Example: night, extension, the dark period after sunset, intention, mystery, fear, loneliness, death, reflection. These deeper associations are intention. Poetic role of intention. The slide says, provides the depth, ambiguity, and emotional resonance beneath the logical surface. This is one of the most important statements in Tate's theory. Extension gives us the surface. Intention gives us depth. Extension tells us what is happening. Intention tells us what it means. Example: consider Robert Frost's line, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep." Extension: the speaker is looking at woods. Intention: the woods may suggest escape, mystery, death, rest, spiritual peace. These possibilities create depth. Without intention, the line would be only a description of trees. Why intention matters. Imagine reading poetry with only extension. Everything would become factual. Every symbol would disappear. Every metaphor would disappear. Every emotional layer would disappear. Poetry would become ordinary information. Intention transforms language into art. According to Tate, intention is the emotional, figurative, and connotative meaning of language that provides depth and emotional resonance to poetry. Quick memory trick. Think: intention equals internal meaning, or intention equals emotional meaning, or intention equals pulse. Pulse gives life to the body. Intention gives life to poetry. Final connection. Now we have both poles. Extension. Literal, logical, dictionary meaning, anchor, intention, emotional, symbolic, connotative meaning, pulse. A great poem needs both. When the anchor and the pulse work together, they create what Tate calls tension. And that is the central principle of his entire theory.